And naturally, I'm a Tottenham man, obviously. I can reflect back to being a player with and manager of some of the finest players that have ever been in the game.
The place is fantastic, the tradition of this club.
To be the manager of 3 cup-winning teams here, I'm so lucky, it's untrue.
Hotspur America podcast, airing every week during the English Premier League season.
What a glory night at White Hart Lane. This great and historic football club. Joyful night down the Tottenham High Road.
Hotspur America, the original US-based podcast dedicated solely to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say! Schoolboy's own stuff.
I hate Arsenal, just hate them.
Oh, what a goal! Unbelievable! Wow, this is incredible.
We're the Yids in America.
Dempsey's there to tap in. What a fantastic run. He scored! And it's turned home. Eric Dyer.
This is your Hotspur America.
Season 4, Episode 9 of the Hotspur America podcast. I've got, who have I got with us today? Got Bass, got Simon, got Timmy. Let's just get right into it. Hope you guys are doing well. We're on the heels of a West Ham victory, a Barnsley victory. We'll spend a little bit of time on Barnsley. It's not a whole lot to talk about, right? Because it wasn't telecast anywhere in the U.S. Was it telecast anywhere in the U.K., Bass?
No, it wasn't. It was like a throwback to the late 70s, early 80s when we had to hunt down commentary on the radio. And I literally listened to it on the radio, which was so weird. But yeah, it wasn't on TV.
So what do we know, other than it was 1-0? What are the talking points of our Barnsley victory?
Hey, real quick, Sammy, let me interject.
Yes.
The Hotspur America podcast is always brought to you by the Community Beer Company, the perfect pub pint to share with your mates. Pick up one of their public ales. Way to forget it.
Yeah. Well done.
Yay, Timmy.
By the way, you sounded really smooth.
Kevin's going to have a word with you, man.
You sounded really smooth there. You want to do that again?
Thank you. I mean, it is the first thing listed on the rundown.
Why?
Mutiny.
I told you where I went to school. The Derek Zoolander School for Kids Who Don't Read So Good. I'm sorry. Yes, great kudos to our amazing sponsor. My apologies there. The reason why we are able to do this podcast. Now, tell me about Barnsley, damn it.
Did anybody see any highlights? I only saw Ali's goal, and I think Barnsley had a chance that Vaughan saved, and that's about it. But
I saw Foyth's header in the opening minutes.
And then Llorente's missed header.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, saw that as well, yeah.
90 seconds of highlight.
So there were no cameras there at all?
Yeah, there were cameras there.
There were, okay. Well, I just don't.
But I need to capture the highlights for a highlight show later because these what is the League Cup? These aren't sort of televised domestically or internationally.
I think Daniel was there because obviously he recorded it for Spurs TV.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it just that they can't get enough advertisers to sponsor it? It's just not good business for the TV companies to play those early rounds. I mean, I used to think...
the problem, Sam, is you've got all those games on 2 nights, but you can only put 1 slot on TV.
Oh, I see.
The UK.
So what was
pretty much the same over here, unless if you remember, we used to do a lot of tape delays with those games.
Yeah, that's right.
They'd be bumped, but that was never going to be a marquee matchup. And let's face it, do we really want the world to see 2/3 empty Wembley?
Yeah. How many showed up for that? Like 20,000, was it?
23, 24.
About 20, just under 26, I think.
But really, that's not that bad for this draw, because last year against Gillingham at White Hart Lane only drew 26,000. So with the added trek to Wembley, only 3,000.
Oh yeah. No one's disputing that it didn't compare to what you would have had at the Lane, but obviously, no one else thought that they needed to go see it to even make a dent in that original number. So,
really, from this match, I just see only 2 talking points.
Yeah.
Kind of one that we can go a little more in depth into is the lineup and Pacha's comments on his opinion on cups. But the other one, just real quick, is the stat line: 25 shots, and you add that to the shots we had against Swansea, and that's only 1 goal from those 2 games with teams that parked the bus. So we're having difficulty with teams that come out and just sit back at Wembley. And so, I mean, really, that's just a quick point from it, but just so many shots in those last two games and only one goal to show for it.
How many were on target of the 20-some-odd shots we had on Barnsley? Was it similar to what we had Swansea that, wasn't maybe a quarter of them were on target, on goal?
A fifth of them, 5 of them were on target.
Wow.
But we also had 10 corners.
Man, we've had like 50 corners this year and not a sniff of a goal. It's unbelievable.
So what I find with these games, guys, where the teams sit back, we struggle to break them down, and then we start getting a little bit desperate and we start shooting from all over the place. So I think the shot stats are somewhat warped, in my opinion, because, like you say, 20-odd shots and 5 on target. Don't know what you can really make of that. By all accounts, the game against Barnsley was very similar to Swansea. They sat deep, although they were a little bit more adventurous, Barnsley, from what I understood. But the problems were the same. We were just struggling to open them up.
And I mean, you also add that with them just sitting so many players in the box, it being so congested. It's not like you can really play through in the box, so you're going to be left with those shots from outside.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but
I mean, I hate to compare us to other top 4 clubs, but it is worth noting the rate of goals that the Man Cities and the Chelseas are banging in, and you can probably put the Uniteds in there as well. And one has to think that opposing teams are going to take similar strategies to the Man Cities and the Chelseas of the world that they would with us, which is just put 10 men behind the ball. So what is it that makes those teams seem to do so well against that tactic, yet we seem to struggle so greatly?
I think we're not moving the ball quick enough. The other teams tend to move the ball a lot quicker. I think our build-up play has been somewhat slow and a little cumbersome in the last few games. Maybe it's just a question of us finding our rhythm. There were some team changes against Barnsley as well, which may have had an impact, but especially against Swansea, I just thought our build-up play was too slow. It quickened up a little bit in the second half, but I think we need to move the ball quicker. We need to move the ball quicker, and we need to move around a lot more than what we're doing currently.
Well, we should.
Did you think we were less pedestrian against West Ham?
Yes,
not that I want to switch to that game yet, but I thought we were a little swifter against West Ham.
Yeah, I'd agree, Chase. Yeah, I'd agree.
Hold that thought. We'll definitely get into that to a great degree. Tim, lineups, notable additions, subtractions in that lineup, and as you said, the big quote going into that match was Pochettino's thoughts on domestic cups relative to Premier League and aspirations of a Premier League, Champions League and aspirations of a Premier League title.
Yeah, I mean, you have Poch's comments pre-match, but then you see the lineup come out, and you got Dele, Jan, Son, Sissoko, and Dembele out there. And that's the real interesting one to me is Dembele, given, his fitness concerns, to choose to play him in this match against Barnsley and not in a London derby against West Ham. I mean, that's still a strong lineup out there with those guys. Obviously, Dele and Jan aren't going to be able to feature against Apoel, so you play them. But, I mean, that's still a really strong lineup out there. And so he's saying he's not taking the cup seriously, but he's putting out that lineup. And I think it really just shows, our improvement in depth is the main thing with that. But the one interesting one I saw was Trips and Aurier. Based on the normal rotation we'd be doing, this midweek match would have been Aurier, and Trips would have been saved for the West Ham match. And Trips had a good previous match, and people thought he was going to keep that spot. So I think this really signaled, the changing in the guard. Some people were saying, is it just a birthday present for Trips to feature against an old club on his birthday? I don't think so. I think this was an actual change to Aurier as Poch's number 1.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree with you. We'll certainly talk about them more as we get into West Ham. 1/4 man of the match. So that's interesting that sort of, and I hate to use the American rookie phrase, but we've had 2 rookies, right? We had Kyle Walker-Peters in his Premier League start get man of the match, and then Foyth in his Spurs debut winning man of the match. So I did the extent of the highlights that I saw literally was like somebody's phone video snippets from the game, but the reports that I saw was that he is really what he was been reported to be, very calm on the ball, pretty cool cat. He made a couple of good defensive plays and then distributes the ball pretty quickly and efficiently. Did you guys kind of hear that as well? I mean, I guess so. I mean, man of the match, right?
I mean, I heard he's has a little Argentinian flair in him moving forward with the ball, the way he just weaves in and out of players. He's not a center back who's going to sit back. He's not afraid to take it up the pitch.
No, I think from what I heard on the radio commentary, obviously it's a lot more difficult to judge, but there were instances where he maybe struggled against their forward on the odd occasion or in the odd challenge, but without actually watching the game, it's really hard to make a judgment on how good or he was, or if there were any deficiencies. But clearly he's got his first game under the belt now, so that's encouraging. And if he was man of the match, then fantastic. It's good signs going forward.
So on to the next round we go, and bit of irony, after beating West Ham, we get to play them again October 24th. That will be at Wembley. Will certainly be interesting to see what kind of lineup we put into that match, because even if you go back and you think about Pochettino's thoughts about cups and that they're not the priority like the league and Premier League, he did speak to the importance of derbies, and that will be a derby, and I would think that West Ham would take that very seriously as they took this Premier League match. So let's talk about it. Tottenham Hotspur 3, West Ham United 2. We win at their manor. That's the first time that we've won there, right?
At that stadium,
Yeah.
It's only the second time we've played there.
Yeah, we lost last year 1-0. That was the
May.
Yeah, where they claimed that they ruined our title pursuits, which is just a complete farce. Before we get into the performance of this game, and I want to ask Simon and Vass this particularly. There's a lot of chatter this week, particularly on Twitter, about is West Ham United a rival? And I would love for both of you to share your views.
No.
Why?
Well, define rival. Rival as in London Derby, obviously, but rival as in challenging for honours, no. Not even close. They're in a different universe. Never will be in the same universe as us. So, but rival as far as a London Derby, but not to the extent of Arsenal, and probably not even to the extent of Chelsea. I really don't even give a flying fuck about Chelsea. The only fixture I look for at the start, when the fixtures come out, is Arsenal.
That?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, they hate us. And
everyone hates us, Vass.
Yeah, but West Ham really hate us. And I've got to be honest, I didn't actually become conscious of this until a few years ago. The amount of hate they had for us. So for many years of my Spurs fandom, I was kind of oblivious to this West Ham thing that was in the background. So they hate us, but the feeling is not mutual because our rivals are Arsenal, and we've sort of developed a rivalry with Chelsea over recent years because of the closeness of the competition and the fact that they're a nasty bunch of chavs. But with West Ham, I mean, there's just, we like to beat them, but that's it. I don't see them as rivals, if I'm perfectly honest.
And I think I brought this point up yesterday on Twitter, ironically, because I think it's Twitter that's done this. The banter that goes on in the social media universe has created what is this potential rivalry that, to your point, Vass, years ago, it didn't exist. And with Chelsea to some degree, because let's face it, we couldn't nick a win off them for about, almost 20 years. So we didn't like to think of it as much of a rivalry. And of course, once we got that win at the Lane in 2006, then, we started to nick points off them more frequently, where we've always been nicking points off West Ham. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised. There's a guy on Twitter. His I think it's James Taylor. He's at James Taylor AG, and he's a real personality on Twitter. I mean, he can be a pretty divisive guy, and he's a season ticket holder, has been for a while. He's probably in his late 20s, maybe early 30s, and he's insistent that they're a rival, and a lot of I think his thinking is sort of how the atmosphere is in the stands. I've never been to a West Ham match. In fact, you have, Tim, and you were at an amazing game. I mean, so does that atmosphere in the close games and the way we've kind of dicked them in the end, so many times, do you think that plays a big